Hello and welcome to day 3 of the 5-day nervous system reset. And today we're going to look at different ways of using the breath to calm and reset the nervous system. But before we do that, I just wanted to go over day 2. So if you haven't done day 2, I suggest that you go after this video and have a look at that. We looked at a mind detox in day 2, and we looked at the fact that most of the nervous system activation that happens today is through psychological stress. The nervous system is an ancient technology that is there for our survival. It's not there for us to thrive, it's there to keep us alive. And it has to work in an advanced society now. And we now have a new part of the brain, the neocortex, the layer on top, the new layer. And this neocortex has the ability to travel in time. It gives us the gift of an imagination, which is incredible because as humans, we have been able to create and develop and design things that didn't exist before. So this gift of the imagination allows us to travel in time to the past, to the future. And it is there as a resource, as a gift. But unfortunately for many of us, it becomes like a curse. And so this ability to travel in time has us reliving the past day in, day out, and going to the future and frightening ourselves with the future and sucking the joy out of today when we're imagining a future that isn't here yet that we want. And so this has consequences for the nervous system because the security guards in the lower brain and the lower survival brain are scanning our body, the environment for any signs of change, and they're also scanning our internal thought systems. And when they see the imagination bringing things to life, they don't know that isn't happening now. And so they are activating a survival response and getting us into fight, flight, freeze, or the stress response. And so it's really important to start to see that this capacity for us to travel in time in our mind needs to really be harnessed. And we use the analogy of a puppy that likes to chew on things. And as we know, when we want puppies to live in the house, we need to train them to come off the slipper, come off the unit, come off the whatever it is, and chew on this toy, this bone, whatever it is. And so we use that analogy to say that, yes, it's incredibly easy for minds to chew on things. That's just what minds do. But we can master that. We can see that we have the ability to train the mind. The mind is not who we are. It's an element of being human. And we can train it to come back to more helpful areas. And so one of the practices that I suggested was a moment-to-moment practice where you go through everyday life, washing your hands, for example, and you just catch the mind travelling, chewing, and you just notice, don't get, down on ourselves. It's what minds do, and we just bring it back using the physical senses in this case. So you're washing your hands. What temperature is the water? How does it feel? What does the soap smell like? What can you hear? So anchoring the mind back into the present moment through the physical senses. If you have a very persistent mind, you can notice that it hasn't done what you wanted, and you can say clear, clear internally or out loud, and again, give a message to come back. We used a different practice. This is the river of thought visualization that I did. And this is using the mind. You're allowing it this time to travel in time. You're using the gift of the imagination. So we're not anchoring it back down into the here and now. We're saying, yes, mind, you can go and play, you can go and chew. But here is what we're going to chew on. We're going to visualize a place in nature. We're going to be experiencing it just as we want. And we're going to use this visualization to calm the system and to have the mind doing exactly what we want it to do. And then in this analogy, when we notice the river of thought, the mind has grabbed us and we're off downstream, again, we just notice. Noticing is so important. And we visualize ourselves rowing back to the bank and resetting. So let me know how you got on. That was a longer summary than I expected. But I think it's such an important one that it's really worth going over again. So comments in the group would be really appreciated. Anything that didn't make sense, anything that you practiced and you thought, yes, great. And do keep on. Our minds have had free rein for most of us for a long time, and they don't want to give up their ability to get us traveling all over the place. So this is about building that new muscle. So it's not just one lift weight in the gym, it's small and often it's repetitive. And go easy with yourself, because there's lots of ingrained habits that we have to overcome. So moving on, today we're going to look at different ways of using the breath to help calm our nervous system down. There are many different ones. Breath work in whatever form is really, really helpful. The type of breathing technique that I recommend is one that we're taught in the type of therapy that I do, and we use this with people who have PTSD, really severe psychological things going on for them, because it has some special features around it that really gives messages of safety to those security guards in the survival brain. So, let me just make myself a bit smaller. Okay, so with 7-11 breathing, it's not, when we do this type of breathing, it's not just a trick of the mind, it's not just a distraction technique, although that is one small element of it. But the great thing about this type of breathing is it's creating a physical body response. It's lowering the stress and anxiety in a very physical way. And how this happens is that when the security guards are alerting, what they will start to do if they think that you're going to have to go into a stress response, so you're going to have to fight or run, they're going to start an exercise response, getting you prepared to fight or run against a predator. And they're going to start increasing your heart rate, and they're going to change your breathing from long and deep to rapid and shallow. This is the activating, stimulating response. The body, the security guards think you're in danger. And if you were actually in danger, you'd want this to happen. You'd want the body to be activated. You'd want all your core functions to temporarily shut down so you've got your arms and legs to fight and run. But if you're sitting in a traffic jam or you're sitting in a meeting at work and this starts to happen, it's not ideal, because it's going to put you in a stress response. You're going to lose the ability to think clearly and rationally. So 7-11 breathing, what it does is the effects of this give messages to the security guards in the survival brain that says, oh, hang on, no, they're okay. They're doing this type of breathing, so everything must be okay. And it sort of tricks the survival response. So it's stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite of the stress response, the sympathetic nervous system. So we might call that fight, flight, freeze, and it will activate rest and digest, or keep us in rest and digest. We're designed to live, our nervous system, we're meant to live in the nervous system of rest, digest and connect 95% of the time. When we've got full capacity, we're zoomed out, we can see the wider picture, we can empathise with people. And we're designed in real life and death situations to temporarily, 10-15 minutes, to go into this fight, flight, freeze, fawn nervous system. And this is a survival nervous system. So the brain will cut, the rational logical brain comes offline, we start thinking differently, we go from zoomed out, wide perspective to very narrow trance state. We can only focus on the problem. And if that is a predator, you want to be staring at that bush just in case. But mostly in life, we want to stay in the zoomed out thing. Okay, so 7-11 breathing can decrease your blood pressure, slow your heart rate, lower emotional arousal of the stress response. This is what I was just talking about, where we go into a different way of being because we want to stay alive. It reduces that back to the calm, connected, rational human. And it reduces stress, anxiety and panic. So the instructions, it's really simple. We breathe in for a count of 7. So we take in a big deep breath, counting internally to a count of 7. And then the out breath, we breathe out for a count of 11. So the crucial thing here, if you've noticed, is that the out breath is longer than the in breath. Okay? So what is happening here is the in breath is stimulating the stress response, and the out breath is stimulating the rest and digest, the relaxation response. So after a long day's work, you sit down and you do a big breath out, a sigh. That's signaling to the body it's the end of the day. And this is the breath. This is crucial in lowering nervous system activation, this longer out breath. Okay. When we're doing 7-11, we really want it to be diaphragmatic breathing. So belly breathing, belly ballooning. Okay, so when you count in, when you breathe in, you want your belly to balloon out. So you're really engaging the diaphragm. And then when you breathe out, the belly comes back in. So to practice this, it's often easier to start when you're lying down, so you can really allow your stomach to come in and out. The numbers, don't get caught up on the numbers, because these are quite long numbers. And if you're, if you're an athlete or you play a wind instrument, you're probably okay with this. But if you're not, then these numbers might be too big for you. So don't worry, as long as the out breath is longer, don't get caught up on the numbers. You could do 3, 6, you could do 5, 9. As long as the out breath is longer, that's absolutely fine. There's also a benefit of counting. I briefly said that when we're going to go into a stress response, the lower survival brain takes offline the rational logical brain. This is our thinking, our humanness, our empathy. And so when we counting happens in the left hemisphere of this brain. So by counting, not only are we distracting ourselves, but we're keeping this brain engaged so we don't go into a big emotional response. So that's 7-11 breathing. Have a go, have a try, see how you get on. I would say also, any sort of breathing technique, practice it regularly when you're feeling calm. Because each time you practice it, it's like money in the bank. It's like a little deposit. So when life grips, when your nervous system tries to activate, it's well rehearsed. And each time you do it, it's lowering your stress response. So it's like air coming out of the balloon, so that you're not building and building and building. So yeah, practice and practice. What some clients do, they do it a couple of times and then they forget about it. And then they feel themselves going into a panic attack and they're like, oh, how do I do it? What do I do? and it's difficult. So practice, practice, practice. Okay, moving on to other techniques then. Fresh air and nature sounds really simple, but there's lots of research going on now around green therapy. And the nervous system seems to attune to nature. So if you can get out to some greenery, to the seaside, to even in your garden, just to connect with nature, it will have an impact, a positive impact on your nervous system. Fresh air as well. If you're out in nature, you can take some deep breaths very consciously, and you can visualize the fresh air coming into your lungs and then into the cells. Feel it revitalizing and waking up the cells. So you can get creative with that. Also exercising so that you're actually oxygenating the body. So exercise that you enjoy gives the body, the nervous system, a reset, because it's using up some of the chemicals that we've built up. So that's an option. Another technique is if you are meditating, or if you just want to sit down with your eyes closed for a few minutes, you can, when you breathe, you're very conscious. You take all of your awareness to the point at your nostrils and you feel the breath coming in. And then as you breathe out, you focus on your nostrils and you feel the breath leaving. This is a meditation practice. And again, you don't need to be sitting in a particular position. You don't need to do it for a certain amount of time. Just have a play, have a try, and see how you get on. Okay, so I'm going to turn my camera off now. And what I suggest is I'm going to keep the video under 15 minutes, like I said I was going to. So I'm going to pause, turn my camera off, and then I suggest, if you have time now, you pause this video and you do some 7-11 breathing practice and see how you get on. Let me know in the Facebook group if you've got any comments or queries. Thank you and see you tomorrow.